Okay. It's a really good starting sentence here. Um, why are Americans more likely to kill each other than citizens of other wealthy industrialized nations? Are we more bloodthirsty, more violent, more psychopathic than others? Or is there something about our culture that encourages us to settle our differences with violence? Okay, now I'm getting into the first. What factors do you think influence our perception of violent crime and terrorism?
Sorry, what factors influence our perception of violent crime?
Mhm.
Uh, I think basically just culturally, like just uh media-based cultures that comes from like basically just people talking to each other and just go like, oh, this is this way that this is done. Oh, this is why violent crime is happening, you know?
You're answering this like a
What?
senator. Oh yeah, it's just culture. It's just media. It's it's this
Okay,
is
so
this is the way that things happen. True. That's you know what? You're not wrong.
okay, so I guess for the question, it's just like in terms of what causes our perception of violent crime, I think it's
You were
uh,
like on the
uh,
right track, and then we're just like, actually, no, I'm gonna just say nothing.
I guess in terms of like in terms of I guess is the question asking like not the cause of like what's the source of
Yeah,
like
just
our
our
perception of
our
how we're
yeah
perceiving it.
yeah yeah.
Okay. Um, so I think uh most uh most most of our perception of violent crime I feel like is extremely for lack of a word paranoid in terms
Okay.
of like the most of the things that in terms of reporting on violent crime is like there's like this air of just like it could happen to you.
Yeah.
You could have this happen to you. Your kids aren't
Mhm.
safe. This,
Yeah.
it's in the idea that you always have to be ready for something to go down.
Mhm.
Um, and that's just kind of part of our media culture in terms of like what is kind of displayed to us through like news outlet stories or just like generally people just talking about like how like if a violent crime has occurred, a lot of people talk in kind of this like rumory thing of just like,
Mhm.
oh, this is, hmm
Yeah, I was slightly distracted because I
but
got
yeah,
a
that's
notification from your husband, and I assumed it was him making fun of you, but you're safe.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Yeah, that is, you gave an actual answer. I'm so proud of you. Uh, so
Yay.
so now this next question is, how does violent crime or terrorism affect you mentally or emotionally and in your day-to-day life? I mean, you do live in
Um,
like a war-torn fucking hellscape, so like
yeah,
in
yeah.
Portland. So
I live in Portland, Oregon. The absolute like I mean, you can see like there's just like every day out my window, there's just like burning trash fire and everything. It's just like it's so scary. In terms of violent crime affecting me, in terms of my you said violent crime and terrorism.
yeah,
Um,
and
the
war, I should say.
like yeah, just violent actions that are being carried out.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of my mental state, it I feel like doesn't affect me that much in terms
Mhm.
of like uh it's just I don't know. I feel like a lot of people's like perception on a lot of things that like violent crimes and kind of thing that happen in your city is just like it feels like it happened to you, but
Mhm.
it doesn't feel that way to me. Like
Yeah.
um
So there's something I just thought about, and I asked Rachel as well, but I hadn't really ever thought about. With it being like you said, like with like kind of mediated like paranoia,
Hmm.
especially because so we know that like the media, the way that they portray violence is like the way that they portray it is a reality, but the way that they portray it is that like the main victims are white women. Like
Yeah.
that's how the media does things. I'm curious if because both of you kind of gave the same answer on that. And it was like it was interesting to see the reactions from the class because like a lot of the like white women in the class responded of just like, yeah, I think about like violent crime on a daily basis. I'm curious if
Uh,
because both of you transitioned past like formative years, if you weren't like encultured to like think of yourselves as victims of violent crime. So
hmm.
now, like, whenever you started thinking of yourself as a victim, because like obviously like crime, but you were already past that point of like paranoia because like you were both reasonably well adjusted and like rational people. So you're not looking
Hmm.
at this as just like me specifically, I am the target of violent crime right now because the media said I am. So I'm curious like how that influences. It's something I've never really thought about with like with queer people's typically coming into that like that perception like later in life instead of during formative years. I'm curious like what that is like what that skew would look like.
Uh, yeah. For me, it's not mainly just like in terms of violent crime. Like I don't think I this might have been different if I was still living in Texas and kind of like, but that's not that is just because I'm a queer trans person
Yeah.
and there's like legitimate like laws that are just one old laws like gay panic and stuff like that
Mhm.
that are continuously being like, no, we can keep using that, but also new laws of just um, uh, things to take basically my rights away.
Yeah.
In Portland, it's a lot. There's there's a way. I think I see a pride flag at least once every day.
Okay.
Um, that is not mine, or like a new pride flag. Like I've gone somewhere place, and then it's like, okay, that's a new one. Um,
That
whereas
is not
I
mine.
think
No,
I've
I
seen,
walk by my own like every day and it makes me feel safe.
yeah. I think I've seen an American flag in comparison, maybe twice the entire time that I've been here.
Well, that's why it's a hellscape.
Uh, yeah, yeah, that's why it's a housecape. Whereas like it's it feels a lot more like I guess because of that, safer in
Mhm.
terms of that. The one thing that I started noticing is just like I didn't feel like I was like after my transition more towards a threat of violent crime. I think also uh a lot of a lot of girls are taught like it's just any like it's just like kind of a general sweeping bad things will happen to you.
Mhm.
Like if you walk home at night or anything like that. For me, it's specifically like post transition was kind of the like fear of just like sexual crimes happening to me. Like that like post transition was the first time I was tailed by somebody of like post transition was like this kind of thing of just like um someone like has interest in me and does not really care about consent
Mhm.
uh was like a thing that like was very real.
Yeah.
But in terms of like violence, no, there's not like any kind of like threat. I
Mhm.
feel like I carry around pepper spray and stuff like that, but that's
Yeah.
for like again, I'm walking alone at night.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah. I mean,
like
even I mean, we live like we lived in a not so great. Well, it was a good neighbor. Like it was a fine neighborhood, but it was like we heard so many stories around us of just like, oh, someone got mugged down the street, and we were like, oh, that's
Yeah.
scary. And then like walked to Whataburger that night, and like at like
Yeah.
2 a.m. So like
Yeah.
we were pretty unbothered. Just like if it happens, it happens. So
Yeah.
okay, fair. Yeah. All right. Okay, getting into the big question. What solutions do you support to reduce the intentional killing of Americans? And why?
The intentional killing of what?
Americans.
The intentional killing of Americans specifically. That's an
Mhm.
interesting question.
Yeah,
Um,
because remember that the first line of this was why are Americans more likely to kill each other than citizens of other wealthy industrialized nations?
uh,
So
okay, I see.
basically, like the question's wording kind of weird, but it basically is just like how do we stop people from fucking killing each other? Like what's a policy change you think we could throw in there?
Uh, I think a lot of the culture is kind of uh constantly at like oh like it feels like I've talked to like various different people like coworkers and stuff, ex-military people that
Mhm.
like and like gun owners and like the thing of just like it goes to the topic of like why do you own a gun, right? And it's always about what the potential for other people to do to them. Like
Mhm.
they always want to be ready. So if you have a bunch of people who are always ready for something to like throw down and protect themselves, and they have a hammer, they're going to see nails
Mhm.
at some point. And
Yeah.
then you have like like you just have people with access to be able to kill people very easily here.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that combined with a culture of just this kind of standoffishness of, well, since other people have the ability to kill you very easily, you have to also have that ability.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like the
And
same. It's like the same thing as like why people keep buying bigger trucks every year.
yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually very similar to that. I've heard people just go like, I want a big SUV, and it's just like, why? Those hurt people. Those are really bad. Those are horrible for cyclists, horrible for pedestrians. Like the increase in sales are directly corresponding to more accidents and injuries to pedestrians and cyclists
But
and
I think the
other
kind of
cars.
exception I think the kind of exception here though is that, like we talked about in class. We addressed like both of these issues in this class, and I think with the cyclist things like or with the cars, the professor made a good point, which is that like to an extent it is logical to want a bigger vehicle because like your odds increasing like your odds of survival do go up a little bit for every like 1,000 pounds of additional vehicle, but your odds of killing the other person go up. I think it's sevenfold for every 1,000 pounds. So it's like it's logical to an extent because you are technically giving yourself better survival rate. But then with guns, something that we learned is that
Yeah,
it does not because instead what actually happens is that you're just increasing your odds of like killing yourself with that gun. So
yeah.
yeah,
The
so it's like it
I think
lacks that logical aspect, but
Yeah. I feel like most people are just won't really care about logic either way. Either way,
mhm,
it is based around perception, the perception of safety.
yeah,
They want to people want to feel safe. Like violent crimes are reported on in a very specific thing that is like again, it's going to happen to you. Something's going to happen. Like just be ready, kind of thing.
yeah,
And it's people believe it. It's
yeah.
I know that like there's so many people that are just like um so ready for that. And also I remember my old supervisor did conceal carry in the
Mhm.
office. I think that was allowed for some reason, and I don't know why.
Okay,
Um
you could have pulled a gun
yeah,
on him.
but
I don't.
he had a gun. He had a gun constantly.
Mhm.
At one point he had his gun stolen. He lost track of it.
Oh, My dad did
and
that.
it was
He
still,
kept because he kept bragging to people about his gun that he had in the office and where it was. And then one day it wasn't there.
yeah. Um, I don't know if he bragged. He just kind of misplaced it, and it got stolen. And the
What a
thing is now, like because you've had this horrible like thing of just to kill some like this tool to kill somebody, and you uh have it on your personal at all times, you're going to like make a mistake, and now you
yeah.
don't have your gun anymore. And
Yeah.
someone who can steal a gun stole your gun.
Like
It's
you the fact that we have like such easy immediate access to these things that a like implement of death could be displaced as if it's like part of a Drake and Josh bit. Like
hmm
that's wild. Of just like,
yeah.
where's the gun?
It's part of the culture of just like thinking of your own safety, and
Mhm.
that's the kind of end of it. That's also
Yeah,
why the SUV thing is. People just think, does this make me safe? And the
yeah,
perception is it does make you safe.
mhm.
That is full stop. That's it. That's where it begins and ends. Any kind of greater societal thinking, anything of just like, does this make people around me safe? How does it make anyone else around me? Well, I don't care. I just want
Yeah,
to be safe.
yeah. And okay, but what you haven't done is answered the question of what solutions you support to reduce the intentional killing of Americans.
I think solution wise, we would have to do one uh, 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 a change of laws. I
Mhm.
think again, I support harder gun control, but also I think culturally we'd have to change this thing of uh, this obsession with I think personal safety.
Mhm.
And that the idea that people want to harm you.
Yeah,
Like it's just like I feel like a lot of Americans go out and they have their job, and their job is they're an accountant, and other people have jobs, and their job is to kill you specifically. Their job, they get 9 to 5. Their job is to kill you specifically, and I think that's just not true.
yeah.
Um, but we need to like
I mean, there are police, so that
you
job
know
does
what?
kind of exist.
Okay. Okay.
There
Yeah.
are police,
Ignoring
and
the
that is true. That is true if you are like a dog.
um, but yeah, I think we just need to kind of like culturally do a cultural shift of not being constantly worried about our own safety,
Mhm.
and thinking that like the absolute mistrust of other human beings, and that like the idea that someone is a bad guy and wants to kill you, and
Yeah,
rather than just like anything else.
yeah. Okay. And so, uh, how feasible do you think that solution or your solutions are? And what obstacles do you think stand in the way of implementation?
Okay. I think the main obstacle is probably the NRA. Um,
Yeah,
I think the problem is like commercially, guns are very lucrative. The selling of guns are very lucrative to people.
yeah,
So you would have to I really don't know. I think you would have to my idea would be instead of just doing like a kind of a lot of people go with culture and then laws will follow, like cultural
mhm,
change and laws will change with the culture. I think you would just need to actually just fully rip the band-aid off, change the laws, make it to
yeah,
where it is not in the interest of companies to kind of like push things because they can't. They legally can't sell you this gun specifically. They can't sell you these kind of things. So there wouldn't be a push of this. There wouldn't be a push of like complete like, oh, we need to make you safe. You are
Yeah.
not safe. That's why you need this. Um,
So I hadn't really thought about it from that angle because you have like what Rachel brought up is like the gun policies in the late 90s in Australia. Um, and I hadn't really thought about it from the angle because like one of the things that they had going for them was that there was like overwhelming support for the changing gun laws, which we don't have
mhm,
here. But something that like relevant from my background is that's kind of how the ADA worked was like they made the policy changes and then the cultural shifts came because like they just made it very unprofitable to not be ADA compliant because
mhm.
specifically like politicians were pressured enough that they made the necessary changes, and then because of that, cultural change came after. So it's like, yeah, that's interesting. So like to say just like rip the band-aid off there because it has precedent in like in other areas that were initially
Yeah,
thought to be like impossible. So
I think basically the main thing that I think it would be very difficult, but I think it's actually easier to make pass some very unpopular laws that will, after a while, in hindsight, for everybody that would be naysayers, would be popular in terms of like you can change the laws to change the culture because otherwise you're fighting the NRA. You're fighting all of these other all these other facets whose job it is to keep this going. Like
yeah,
actually.
because like a problem of kind of what you're saying is like a problem with the NRA is that it is very lucrative to sell guns, and on the flip side,
Yeah.
it's not very lucrative to not sell guns. And so like with the ADA, it's like it was very lucrative to like continue ignoring like accessibility, but there wasn't any money in like being accessible. Uh,
Hmm.
so it is kind of like, yeah, it's just like, you just have to, yeah, rip off the band-aid, like you said. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Okay, well, there we go.